So 3 months ago, I made the promise. I'm setting myself a deadline. This car will be finished by December, the end of December 2024, because I'm not going into the new year with this car still in bits. But I completely forgot about that deadline until I saw this comment. At this point, I shot up, got dressed and left the house as quick as I could. Which brings me to here, so now we need to go on a little shopping trip to get what we need to finish the GTO in this video. So the first place I needed to go was to Wickes to get some deionized water for the cooling system. And then on to Halfords to get some brake fluid, because all of that is empty as well. So I've got 5 litres of DOT4 brake fluid for the brakes on the GTO because there's no fluid in it. And I've got deionized water because I've got coolant. But instead of putting 8 litres of coolant in, I'm going to put 5 litres of coolant in, or antifreeze, and then 3 litres of deionized water. That way it dilutes it a little bit, and if it starts to leak, which it might do because I haven't tested it yet, at least I'm losing the deionized water, which is like £3 for 5 litres, as opposed to the coolant, which is about £30 per 5 litres. So it's better to test it that way than it is to just dump a load of coolant in and then have to replace it all if it comes out. So now I need to go home and get changed, and I'll cut back to you when I've got me dirty clothes on and we can go down the unit. We can finally finish as much as we can of the GTO. So see you in a bit. So now I'm back. I've got my dirty clothes on. I've also got a little surprise in the back for the unit, but that'll be on the unit update video, not this video. But anyway, let's get down the unit and let's start/finish the GTO. Here we are, we're back down the unit. It's a bit of a mess at the minute, but all this wood and stuff like that, I'll go through in the unit update video along with the box I had in the boot before. But this is the main focus of today, the GTO. So the GTO as it stands actually isn't that far off completion, but there is still a fair bit that needs doing, considering the inside of the car looks like a moving van. The back has got all my tools and stuff in it, and it's still 3-4 different colours. So there's a lot that needs to be done in that respect. But in terms of the engine, we're doing quite well. So let's get straight into the list of what we need to do today, and we need to make sure we get it done to complete this car. The only thing I know I definitely can't do, purely down to the temperature, is the wrap. It's too cold. To try and wrap the car, whenever I pull the vinyl, because of how cold it is, it'll snap, and I don't want to damage the vinyl trying to stick it on the car and rushing it. So that definitely won't be getting fixed. It'll still be blue, red, maroon, black, whatever else, but we'll get it mechanically sound, and then we can make it look good in the new year. I do have the vinyl for the GTO. I've had it for a while, so I don't even know if it's good enough to use, but I'll give it a go, but it's too cold to do it today. Job 1, the coolant system needs filling up with coolant and deionized water. I don't know if it leaks yet, but we'll find out in this video. Job 2 is the brakes, because we refitted the calipers and they look all nice, but there's no pads and there's no fluid in it. Which means the GTO has no brakes technically. It's got shiny, nice calipers, but no stopping power, so we need to fix that today. Next one would have been no start off the key, so with the fuel relay being down here, it doesn't work. So I've got to stick the jump leads on the battery and all that. But that problem's not just as simple as it being the fuel pump relay. That's going to require a lot more digging. So the car still works, that's fine. But I'll try and do a video on that in the future, because I think I'm going to have to wire in a completely new circuit, because it's very common. It happens on a lot of the GTOs, and I don't really know of a way to fix it. And then last but not least is to get the rest of the panels on, like that front wing, the side skirts, the door trim, and essentially just make the car as complete as I can. So when I do come to wrapping it all in the same colour, it's all there for me to wrap against, because I have got everything, I just haven't put it back on yet. But that's enough rambling. Let's get the car up, get the wheels off, and the first thing we'll do is the brakes. So now that the car's up and the wheels are off, I'm just going to rotate the caliper so I can actually get to it, because it's a bit awkward when it's inside the wheel arch. Now that it's turned, you can see on the GTO you don't have to remove the brake caliper to fit brake pads, which makes this a lot easier. All you need to do is stick a bit of copper slip on the back of the pads so they don't seize and stick to the pistons. Slide them in on either side of the disc. After that, you stick the retaining pin in along with the spring. The spring provides constant tension on the pads to stop them sliding about. Once the 2 pins are in, with a lot of copper ease again, just so the pads can slide and the pins are easier to get out in the future, you stick the retaining pin in on the back of those pins so they don't back out or rotate and your pads don't fall off as you're driving down the road, because that's the last thing you'd want. And that is the front brake pads correctly fitted to the front caliper. So the GTO now has front brakes. Yes, I know I'm probably going to get a bit in the comments over using the old pads, but there's that much meat on them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're all flat. Yes, they're a bit rusty, but when you drive the car, that'll take the rust off the disc. I'll probably try and clean it off a bit first, but it's just surface stuff. I'm basically rubbing it off with my thumb. But anyway, the front passenger side is on. You come around here. The front driver side is the same, and again, these pads are just as thick as the opposite side. So they're all good. I'll give them a go, and if they don't work properly, then I will get new ones anyway. But for now, they'll do the job. But now that we've got the fronts on, we need to get the rears on, because we can't bleed the fronts until we've done the rears. Because the way it works is, the brake booster's on the front passenger side, so you bleed the furthest caliper away, which would be the rear driver's side. So we'll bleed that, then the passenger side, then the front driver's side, then the front passenger side, and then that's the brakes bled up. The reason you do it that way is because with them being the furthest away, you want to get all the air out the system so it doesn't travel back through and then cause bubbles in the other three that you've already bled. So we need to get the car up at the back, get the back wheels off, and while we're in there, we'll adjust the handbrake, because the handbrake's pretty high up at the minute. And although that is on, I do think it's got a bit more adjustments in it, so that doesn't have to go as far up, and we can drop it down a little bit. So the rear brakes are even simpler than the fronts, would you believe that? All you do is take the bolt out, flip the caliper up, stick the retaining pins in, a bit of copper ease, slide the pads in, flop the caliper back down, bolt it back up, and that's literally it. And just like that, the rear brakes are now also done on both sides. So there's the pads sitting pretty. Again, the disc is a bit tatty, and I know the brake pads are a bit tatty, but there's a lot of meat left on them. So in terms of usability, there's still a fair bit left, and they're both flat. So now that we've got both sides in again, we now need to move on to bleeding the brakes. And like I said to you before, because on the GTO, the brake booster is there, which is the passenger side. This is a right-hand drive car. So the brake booster's there, meaning in terms of the calipers, it's that one in that corner you need to start with, then that one, then that one, then that one. And just like when I did it on the Porsche, and if you haven't seen that video, go click in the top right hand corner now. I'm going to use my power bleeder again, because it's just me and I can't pump the pedal and bleed the calipers. And for those who don't know, this is the power bleeder. So you fill that with brake fluid right to the top. You then have this little quick release connector that goes onto this. This is an adapter plate for the GTO's brake fluid reservoir, because of how big it is, because it's quite a hefty size. And then you pump that to pressurize this, which then forces brake fluid through this hose into the top of that, into the top of the reservoir, and then out of the calipers when you crack those bleed nipples. So let's get to it. So first things first, I need to fill the power bleeder with brake fluid, then attach the adapter to the brake fluid reservoir. And it was at this point, when I went to pressurize the brake bleeder, that I realized it probably isn't going to work. Well, the brakes are bled, but the power bleeder didn't really do anything, because with the reservoir being so big on the GTO, that bit there, the adapter I had for it, although it was going over, it wouldn't seal, so it was just dripping brake fluid all over the floor. So in the end, all it did was connect that, which is the waste brake fluid catch, onto the nipples of the brakes, again in sequence, left, right, and then it just pumped the pedal until a load of fluid was coming out consistently. And then before it had a chance to go back through the caliper, I tightened the bleed nipple up. So hopefully it's kept the air out. The pedal's quite solid, so I'm happy for now. But I think I'll need a proper bleed on it with someone else pumping the pedal in the car. But at the minute, I think that'll have to do. But that's the brakes done on the GTO. The next thing we can do is fill the coolant, because while the car's up, it makes sense, because then that way, if there are any leaks, I can get under the car and I can see them. So I'm going to start with the deionized water. I'm going to throw 3 litres of that into the engine, and then providing it doesn't leak, I can then start putting the 5 litres of coolant in. And also, some of you may be wondering why I'm using deionized water instead of just regular tap water. And that's because regular tap water has additives in it, like fluorine, chlorine, stuff like that, which causes impurities within the coolant system and can corrode it from the inside. The deionized water doesn't have any of those impurities, so it doesn't corrode the inside of the coolant system. And then when you mix it with antifreeze, it won't freeze either. So now I'll add the 5 litres of coolant, and then that's a total of 8 litres in this coolant system. And it sounds like a lot, but this engine is actually quite big. But now we can pop our head underneath and we can see if there's any leaks. You'd think this car doesn't want to go back on the road, because I've just had a look under to see what's going on with the coolant, and I saw that and I thought, there's no radiators here, and then I realised that is brake fluid off the ABS pump there, and it's leaking from multiple places, especially on the top. See just round at the top there, it's just leaking brake fluid out. And then when you come underneath, you can see it dripping on the back, which isn't good. So it's a good job I got 5 litres of DOT4 fluid, because that's going to have to come off and I'm going to have to re-bleed the brakes again after I've fixed the problem with the ABS pump. But I don't even know if you can get reseal kits for them, or if you can I know you can bypass them on the firewall with a different proportional valve, but the pump itself, it's not going well. The place is an absolute mess. So that's the ABS pump carrier. I did just whip it off because the brake lines are quite stiff. That's the pump, and minus that one bolt, these 3 have all snapped, so that's fantastic. And to add insult to injury, I've just cast my eye under the car and we have a coolant leak. And to make things worse, it's at the back of the engine, right there. You can see it just slowly dripping away. Now, there are a few things that could be. It could be getting to the back of the engine from somewhere near the middle. But I don't know. It's getting late. I'm not looking into it today, so I'll probably come back tomorrow to look into it. But it was going well, and now it's not. Although, if I am trying to stay positive, we have got brake pads on all the brakes, so all that is in. It's just the ABS pumps messed it all up for us. But anyway, I'll come back to you tomorrow, and we'll see how far we can get with it. But it's just been an absolute pain. But I'll see you tomorrow. It's now the next day. As you just seen in the last clip, all the bolts snapped on the ABS pump, so I've just been down being cute and got some fresh bolts. So we'll try and rebuild the pump with some fresh O-rings, and hopefully it doesn't leak. But if it does, which wouldn't surprise me, I might have to come up with something else in the future to fix it, because it's not something I can just do right now. But we'll get it built up and we'll see if it leaks first. So now I'm back down the unit, and here's the pump. So you can see I've got the fresh bolts in, and I had me seals out, so I've resealed everything from under that, above it, and then in the middle you can see those silver pipes. They all have an O-ring on either side. I think there was a total of 8. So they've all had new O-rings in. I've tightened these down nice after clamping it to make sure everything squashes itself down properly so the bolts don't snap, because 2 of them did snap when it's hard to get them back in. But now I'll need to get that back in there with all the brake lines on, and then we can see if it leaks. So because of how fiddly it is, I'm just going to fit it in, and I'll come back to you when it's back in the car. So the ABS pump is now back in the car. It was just as awkward to get back in and as it was to get out because of all these little hoses down here. But to properly test the pump, I'm going to start the car, and then I'll press the brake pedal inside and see if any of the fluid leaks out of the pump. Hopefully it doesn't, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not that hopeful, because the repair wasn't the best, and I just had to make do with what I had. But we'll start the car, we'll press the pump, and we'll press the pedal, and we'll see if anything comes out. So after pressing the pedal for a good while, I could see that brake fluid was still coming out of the ABS pump, but it wasn't coming out as much or as fast as it was before, because there's only a few little drips on that cardboard, whereas before it was a massive pool. So maybe the new seals have done something. I'll try and find the seal kit, and I'll try and rebuild it just for the sake of cost, but I don't really know what to do with this yet. So as you just seen in that clip, it is still leaking. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, but it's still, well, it's your braking system. You don't want any leaks in that at all. So I think my 2 options now are to either buy a new ABS pump, which you'll see here is this much, or buy an ABS pump delete kit and fit it to this, which a lot of people do, and that is this much. So let me know down in the comment section below what you'd do if this was your car, because I've now got a decision to make. But I've noticed when I was editing the video that ABS delete kit is actually out of stock, so I can't even get hold of that if I wanted to. So realistically, my only option is to buy that second-hand pump, and at that point I think I'd rather take my pump off and give it another good go trying to reseal it before I spend 240 quid on another old second-hand pump that I'm not even sure if it'll work. But as you can see there, the cardboard brake fluid is just slowly dripping from the bottom of the pump again. So it's safe to say it didn't fix it. So as much as it kills me to say, I think I've failed. Because realistically, this isn't getting finished today, because I haven't got the stuff I need to finish it. And it's the 30th of December, so I definitely haven't got the time. But having said that, even though it's not going into the new year as a finished car, there's still a lot that's been done since when I said I'll get it finished. because the engine is in and we finished rebuilding that, got that back in. That actually runs, which is a good start. As we've done in this video, it now has brakes. The brakes work to a point, they just leak a bit on the ABS pump. The exhaust is on and you can see it runs all the way through the back. And there's the tips there, so all that is connected. You just need to do the pipe at the front, so it's not too bad. All the drive shafts are in and the car actually does drive, it just doesn't stop well because the brakes don't really work. And I know it looks horrendous at the minute, but in reality there's actually a lot left to do to get this finished. And a lot of that's my fault. I haven't really prioritised the GTO because I've had the Porsche to do, I've had the TT to do bits on, and I've kind of just got a bit sidetracked. It's one of them projects where I've had it that long, you kind of fall in and out of love with it, but I think it deserves more than that. So going into the new year, I'm gonna try and get this done as soon as I can because I want to drive it, and at least if that's finished, I can focus my energy on the Porsche and the TT, and then when they're done, I can get the next project, and I haven't got to worry about that, and I can actually enjoy it. So I spent the past 3 years trying to get it on the road, and we're so close, but it's all these little bits, all these little things that are just tripping me up, and finding parts isn't easy. So like I said before, with the ABS pump, if this was your car, would you change the ABS pump, or would you buy an ABS delete? Now, I am sorry that I let you down, and I've let myself down really because I set the deadline and I didn't complete it, and if I'm being honest with you, I kind of forgot about it. Like I said before, this was the project I've neglected a little bit, and if you've ever had a project car, you'll know as much as I do that you go through waves with it. Sometimes you really enjoy working on it, and other times like today, it's just an absolute pain and it fights you at every turn. But although I didn't finish it, at least I can say I give it a good go, and you can see based on this bomb site of tools, rags, seals, yeah, it's just not an easy car to work on. But all that now means is I'm just gonna have to smash it in the new year and work harder to get this finished, because I'm not gonna let it defeat me. I am gonna get it on the road, but I think it's just gonna take a lot longer than I thought it would, and I massively underestimated how much of a pain it is. And it's very true when people say restoring a car like this is definitely a labour of love, because if this was like any other car on the road, I'd have lost interest a long time ago and it probably wouldn't have been worth it. But this GTO is special, it's got a lot of potential, and I think it'll be fantastic when it's finished, and I will finish this car. But that's going to have to be it for this video, guys. Hopefully you haven't given up on me yet, because there's still a fair bit to do. Between the GTO, the Porsche, the unit itself, because there's still a lot going on in here, and the TT, which is outside. But if you like what you see and you want to see me finish this car as well as the other projects on the channel, remember to hit that like button and the subscribe button to keep up to date with everything that goes on. And I'll see you in the next one.
Lie awake at night? Are you afraid to turn out the lights? Is there